make it up this hill, y'all. Pray for us. Yeah, I'm sorry, people. What do you want me to do? Shit.
Take a slight right turn.
I didn't know we was gonna have to climb Everest to get here. I didn't know we were at base camp back there. Anyway, we're gonna go off here in the thing.
Take a slight left turn to merge onto I-30.
I get it. Anyways,
She's bossy.
we had an issue with an ignition box that was completely and 100% tired of my bullshit, and I'm sure it had something to do with like starting it in the shop to see if the cam sync was okay 1,050 times. We were gonna go to our local track and test, but turns out they have a very large event, a drag and drive event. Even though I did make the drive from the other end of the track to the pit the other day, you know, and I did it.
Qualify for the drag and drive?
No, they said I didn't qualify. They said you had to go like, I was like, dude, I went at least a quarter of a mile. And they're like, no, you gotta go like 300 miles. And I was like, oh, well, color me out then, I guess. Anyway, so they're having a drag and drive type cruise event today or whatever, yesterday and today. So we didn't get to test yesterday like we wanted to. So we were gonna test today, but man, there's just no way to do it. And plus, I don't want to go out there and mess up. You know, them people are having their.
Use the left lane to take a slight left turn to merge onto I-30
Hold on, I
West.
gotta listen there. And people are having their day, they're doing their thing. I ain't trying to come out there and ruin everybody's day, you know. So we called around and tried to find some place to test that was close, and man, everybody had something going on, or they were all involved in the other deal. But boy, do we have a treat for you today. When I think of places to go test, I've never really thought of, like when I need a time slip, you know, when you're like shooting for a 60 foot or something, like you need a time slip, right? Otherwise we just go test on the street, especially if you're like pulling plugs and trying to make sure you don't hurt something, pulling it back and all that. I just never think about Yellow Belly drag strip in Dallas, Grand Prairie, whatever. You just never, I never think about that place to like go test my car. I think about that place a lot to like go watch races and hang out and have a good time and do some grudge racing, you know? But I just never really thought about testing there. I didn't even know that you could like go there. Like I thought they were only open on Sundays or whatever. But a good friend of mine, Dan Lee, that runs all the street race and cash days events and stuff, and he put on a big event at Yellow Belly here not too long ago. Him and Limpy worked together on a lot of that stuff down here, and he noticed that I was looking for somewhere to go test, and he said, I got you. He said he would have me a place to test in Dallas, so we got the car ready, threw it in the trailer, and we hauled ass down here, and we're only 2 hours late. I mean, that should tell you how bad we want to do this.
It's a record for you, yeah.
That should tell you, like,
that's the most on time you've ever been.
That's how you know that I'm serious about this, that I really appreciate the opportunity. So
yeah, you're normally more than 2 hours late to the track. That's only 45 minutes from
yeah,
the
we went to the track that night and I was more than 2 hours late. It's always been a, you know, a bucket list deal or a goal of mine to go to Yellow Belly and race there and stuff. So it's kind of bittersweet because we get to go to Yellow Belly. I get to make a pass at Yellow Belly, which is, you know, crazy. I never thought I'd ever get to make a pass in my car at Yellow Belly. I thought it would be, you know, some grudge car or some, you know, the El Camino back in the day or whatever. But this is kind of crazy.
Take the exit.
To get to make a hit in my own car there. The goal is, the best idea is to test where you're going to race, because that's the you know, that's the priceless data you need to come off the trailer and go down and win races. And you know, my whole life and career drag racing, I've always tried to do that. But in this case, a lot of these races that I'm going to do or I want to do, you know, like just checking races off. A lot of these races don't, you know, it's frowned upon to test before the race there. So, you know, this is one of the only times I've never even called Brown County. Like, I never even called the track that we're going to like see if I could test there, because usually that'd be me. I'd call and see if I could rent it the whole week before somebody else could get it. But the theme here is off the trailer, and we're on somebody else's. This isn't our deal. We're just visiting, so like, you know, win in Rome or whatever. So, or win in Brown County, I guess. But so the plan here is that, you know, everything that I've been told about this track that we're racing at Brown County, Indiana, is that it's short shutdown.
To turn onto West Davis Street.
Hang on, she thinks she's on the video. She thinks she's part of this fucking thing.
Turn right.
She got short with you. She
Yeah,
just
yeah, she did.
turn right.
You let me do my fucking job.
In 3/4 of a mile, turn right.
You made the first
I haven't
right
even
yet.
made this turn yet. Here we go. So, yeah. Everything I've been told about Brown County, Indiana, the racetrack that we're going to next week, everything I've been told about it is that it's short shutdown, sketchy shutdown, scary shutdown. And I've also been told that it's narrow. There's woods on both sides, a creek, and it's bumpy as hell. You know, it's a lot of things. You know, trying to test for that is not easy. It's not easy to find a track around, you know, the Midwest or in Oklahoma or take whatever. It's not easy to find a track that is all of those things. You'll find one that's bumpy,
Turn
but
right.
it may not have
Then
short
turn
shutdown.
left onto
You know,
East Main Street.
you find one that has short shutdown, but might not be narrow, might not have trees or whatever on both sides. So, but this deal here, this is like the just right one. Everything I've heard about Yellow Belly, same thing.
Go through the dirt right there, between the white poles, turn around, and you're gonna park right over here in the staging lanes.
All right, I can do that. It's awesome.
Place is ours.
Fucking A.
You can have water or glue or whatever you want.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's whatever the hell you want. You can do one water, one glue if you want to. They don't give a shit around here.
I've never been to a track that said, yeah, whatever you want,
Can you
man.
do like one of each tire? You know?
And
mix and match.
right here we can use if you like.
Wow, look at this fucking place, man. Man, this is insane. Like, I can feel it. Like, I can feel it.
I will say, if you start getting loose, when you see on both sides, you go off that line, it steps down by about 2 inches
I
on
got
both
you.
sides.
I got
So
you.
once you get in that, Brett sent it through there. You know,
Yeah.
you know he don't care, but
Yeah.
it does upset your chassis.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I can imagine. It don't take much to upset one of those
Yeah.
chassis nowadays.
But you
Wow.
know, usually at a track, you cross that line, you're already in the wall.
Yeah.
Where here, you can cross that line, you can hit the wall and still win money. They don't give shit.
Well, unless you're the guy a couple weekends ago.
He got paid.
Oh, did he? Well,
Yeah.
You excited?
Yes, I'm excited, but I'm also like, you know, kind of weirded out because there's nobody here. You know, no people here. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of spooky.
like the kind of that's the I don't know, you know, not my place to say that in front of, you know, the people whose place it is, but like, just so you know, this place when ain't nobody in here is spooky. Anybody ever said that, Dan?
What?
This place when nobody's here is spooky?
Yeah.
It's creepy. Feels like I'm not supposed to be here, you know what I mean? It's creepy. It's that kind of creepy.
Look at the barbed wire on the fence.
Yeah.
It feels like you're in a prison right now, don't it? They shut off all the lights around here, and it's kind of, it gives you that creepy vibe.
It'd be a goddamn shame if this ever goes away. Ever. Like,
And they want to put a new track down, and I said no. You take this track away, and we won't do events here. You'll take everything away from it if you change it.
yeah, I mean, like I was talking to them over there, like, the only thing that I would ever want, you know, or anybody do, or only time I ever go somewhere and then I think, like, I might not go back there, is if it's a coin flip. You know what I mean? If they're not the same. So I told them, I said, I don't care if they're bumps, just have them in both. You know,
Yep.
whatever. Or it don't even have to be in both, as long as there's something in this lane that you have to deal with as well. You know what I mean? Because then it evens it out. You know.
You know, when me and Limpy started talking about where we were going to put on a outlaw no prep track race, you know, we have what, 12 racetracks in Texas? So
yeah.
where are we really going to do it at? This is it.
This should be.
So that's why no matter what, we fought to have it here no matter what, because you don't get no more gangster than this.
I've been to a lot of streets in DFW that aren't as gangster
Yeah.
as this. You know what I mean? You don't get this feeling at, you know?
Yeah.
There are the streets, there are the ones, and you know which ones I'm talking about, where you go there, you stand there, you feel it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But there's a lot of streets that you don't feel it like you do. Like, this is just wild, dude. When we turned that corner right there, I was like, what the? Like, this is a lot. You know what I mean? This is a lot. Oh,
In
yeah.
your heart, your street. That's
Oh,
where
yeah.
you come from. That's where you'll always
Yeah,
be.
that's where I'm headed to.
Yep.
Yep. This is one step here. I'm gonna hit them all. I'm gonna hit all the places I wanted to hit. On the east side of Grand Prairie, Texas, sits a virtually unaltered piece of street racing's living history. It has been described as unsanctioned, ungoverned, and unruly. Considerations aren't completely lost here, but they're earned. This is Yellow Belly Run What You Brung drag strip.
This is Yellow Belly, a drag strip on Grand Prairie's east side. Authorities from Grand Prairie to Dallas call it a haven for drugs, prostitution, and all-out violence. Still, rave reviews.
There's no prostitution that I've seen.
It is a bum rap. This is not the place it's made out to be.
Fans, hardcore racing fans, shudder at talk of closing the track.
In my opinion, it's the greatest thing that drag racing has ever given to the human race. And by proxy, it's the greatest thing that humans have ever given to drag racing. When the aliens land on Earth and ask what drag racing means to the human race, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that someone takes them to the gut and puts a $20 bill in their hand or claw or flipper or whatever. Now, as the story goes, or at least as it's told today, sometime during the early 50s, some kids from Grand Prairie, Texas started drag racing their hot rods on the dried up Trinity riverbed. And like all good street racing spots, there were friends from all walks of life out there on any given Sunday. And one of those folks just happened to own land that the river ran through. And he was tired of their group getting hassled and ran off by the cops just as the racing action would start to get good. And so he stood up for those street racers. And he designated a straight piece of road on private property so they could have a place to race and enjoy their hot rods without worry of tickets and impound fees. Not to mention, if you've ever street raced in DFW, you've heard the stories of what happens to race cars at the Grand Prairie impound lot. Even just a few years ago when the Sonoma got impounded in Grand Prairie for street racing, everyone was so worried that if they ever got it out, it would be stripped of all its expensive high-performance parts, most of which are deemed illegal for highway use anyway. In 1968, the place was bought by a young female entrepreneur, and she started making major upgrades to the facility right away, such as a new tower with PA systems, staging lights, bathrooms, concession stands, and at some point they added a legit timing system. And they also added the now infamous covered pavilion parking on both sides of the track, which you will not see at any other drag strip in the country, or probably the world for that matter. And they also added something else that was infamous, which is the barbed wire fencing, and it was added everywhere to keep the wild crowds from throwing beer bottles onto the racetrack whenever the cops would come and hassle their favorite drivers. Believe it or not, this place has a bit of a wild reputation with the local cops. You don't say. Third and fourth generation owners of the drag strip have managed to keep it in the family for over 50 years, despite rarely turning a serious profit, and continuing to keep employees around for the same amount of time. That should tell you just how special this place really is. Can you imagine your kids' keeping anything of yours long after you're gone? A money pit of a drag strip on what has to be 50 to 100 acres of land in the DFW area. You want to know just how special this place really is and why it's still around? Go ask the owners and operators that are there every night why they do it. Go ask OG Ronnie Barnes why he is still there 40 years later. Better yet, just go stand on the fucking starting line and instantly it all makes sense. I am no expert on Yellow Belly, nor do I pretend to be. This is just information that I've collected to help shine some light on what this video and that experience meant to me. This won't be my last time at Yellow Belly Drag Strip, but I'm truly grateful to Dan, Limpy, OG Ronnie Barnes, and the entire Yellow Belly family. It was something I'll truly never forget, and I'm so excited to come back and do some racing with my vet, with Caddy Jack, and coming sooner than I'd like to admit, I'll be standing on the line with my two boys, who will no doubtedly be embarrassed of me, and by then I'll be super old school and loving every damn minute of it. The groove's pretty wide, so like, if we're not careful, we're going to be in one and out of the other one, you know what I mean? So, and also, it's something about it is like, it's obviously not just fucking with me, but like
something
you
to
see
watch.
all the marks are going or climbing to the center, so it's almost like they're pointing them a little left, you know,
Trying to stay
because
out of that side?
yeah, probably,
That's
you know
what I
what
was
I mean.
kind of seeing too.
So just make sure with mine, we don't, you know, we're gonna point mine straight, you know what I mean. I'm about to make my first hit at Yellow Belly. I'm about to turn the corner in the staging lanes for the first time. I'm about to do a burnout at Yellow Belly for the first time. There's lots of cool, crazy things going through my head. Honestly, going down really isn't one of them, but at the same time, I'm always striving for excellence, so I'm always trying to make it happen. So when we get there, we unload the car. Car sounds killer, you know. I'm excited because it really seems like these ignition issues are finally done. Car sounds amazing, fired up. It's kind of a challenge to get straight into the burnout box at Yellow Belly, just because the staging lanes are a hard turn. There's a truck there, which I think is the emergency vehicle or whatever, track prep vehicle, whatever, or I guess they don't really have track prep, but it's some sort of track vehicle, because you can tell it's got mops and brooms and stuff all over it. So, but it's sitting there, and when a car, you got wheelie bars and everything else hanging off the back, it's hard to kind of get back where you need to be. So once we got it into the burnout box is just dug in. So there's been, you know, 50 years of cars doing burnouts there in the same spot 2-3 times a week. So where the tires are, it's just dug in really bad. So you can feel the car as you pull in. You can feel it settle in, try and settle into those grooves, if you will. I pull forward. I'm still not quite 100% straight, so they have me back up again and pull forward again, make sure I got plenty of water on the tires. Go to crack the throttle to do the burnout, and this thing it's healthy. It's firing. It's doing its thing. Everything is working. I mean, it instantly zings up. Grab high gear. I can feel the back of the car jump up, you know, that's when you know. When I spool it up on the brake, when I let go of the foot brake and grab the line lock, this thing hikes up, grab high gear, and then start rolling out, and it is on. I mean, I can feel it. It's got plenty of horsepower. It's exciting to me in the car. I know that I've got brand new sticker tires. They don't have any passes on them, no burnouts whatsoever. So I know that I need to do a pretty decent burnout. But at the same time, I also am trying to make sure that the car is going to stay in the groove. And there's a lot of things going through my head, and, you know, Yellow Belly and all that. Plus, it's weird seeing those pavilions down both sides. You think you're, you know, way further out there than you are. It's like what they call tunnel vision, you know. It just seems like you're going forever. So, and it seems like you're going really fast, too. So I back up after the burnout. Everything's money. They line me up, go to set the wheelie bars. I notice it's taking a little long to set the wheelie bars compared to what it usually does. I know that, you know, we've been testing lately, so, you know, it's not like it's our first time out this year, so that usually doesn't take as long. I noticed it was taking a little while longer than normal. I find out later that it's because the surface of the track there, after you do the burnout, the surface of the track near the starting line doesn't get 100% flat and level till the starting line. to be honest, I don't know if it ever gets 100% flat and level, but so when Twan's back there setting the wheelie bars, he's having some trouble because there's divots in the track, and so he's having to kind of, you know, figure that out as he goes. He gets the wheelie bar set, they pull me forward, I go on the brake to spool it up, and it wicks up violently. And while I'm waiting on them to set the bars, it's idling, and it is clean and crisp. And I, you know, every once in a while, I'm watching the head temperature basically. So as it sits there idling, the head temperature starts to creep, and we're talking like head surface, deck surface temperature basically is what I'm looking at, not like engine temp, water temp, but because water temp is dropping fast. After the burnout, I kick the water pump on, and the ice starts circulating through the motor, so the water temp goes up and then comes way down. So the water temp's still dropping, head temp starting to rise. Every so often I whack the throttle one time just to give it a shot of accelerator pump fuel. That shot of fuel kind of cools the combustion chamber off. So I'm just sitting there, give it a rev, and it's hitting hard. I mean, you know, not like the Vet or Jackie's car or nothing, but you know, because it's a turbo car, but still, for a, you know, turbo Pontiac, this thing's hitting hard. I go on the brake to spool it up, it wicks up, it's doing its thing, it's on the popper quick, I bump in, let go of the button, and obviously we've been band-aiding some problems with the ignition box we didn't know we had, because now, I mean, you know, what was usually making 14 pounds of boost is making 16, so, or, you know, 13 and a half to 14 pounds, now it's making, you know, 15, 16. So when I let off the brake, I think it was at 16 and a half pounds of boost, which is a little hot for that track. With no prep, it's untouched, no cars are going down it. I'm the first car, you know, there's no, they don't have dragging machines and like prepping machines and all that, you know, they got a sprayer that they use if you ask them to, but we told them not to touch it. So the most this thing had gotten all day was maybe a push broom. So when I let off the brake, it spun the tire. You know, they're brand new tires, so they're glazed over pretty good still. It takes a while to get them to scrub in. So it spun the tire, kicked the ass in to the right a little bit, and then it proceeded to drive towards the center line. And as it drove out of the groove, it also had too much wheel speed and too much power, so it spun up, kicked sideways a little bit, and started to waffle the tire, and I dumped out of it. No reason in trying to drive that out, so dumped out of it. I was really wanting to go down my first pass, you know what I mean? Because everybody said Yellow Belly is so challenging, and you know, it's hard to go fast there, and guys have lots of, you know, all the excuses everybody makes. I click it off, coast down through there, you know, and now I'm just checking out the shutdown area, checking out the turn, because I've heard a lot about that too. And everything's, you know, seems normal as can be. Bring it around. I go ahead and shut it off because we're getting in the routine of using the golf cart. So even though I probably should have or could have driven it back, we're just trying to get in that routine of using the golf cart, pulling the car back. We're doing the same things every time, just like we're going to do at the race. So at War in the Woods, we're going to use the golf cart. It's a big event. There's lots of people everywhere. It's going to be really tough to drive that car back. We're just getting into that routine of using the golf cart. So I let them pull it back. We check the data. Obviously, it had too much, you know, too much power at the hit. I didn't ask for that much power at the hit, so it's kind of a good thing that now we have the power we're supposed to have. It's a good thing that the motor's running so good. It's a good thing that all the vital signs are there. I mean, there's lots of good things here. Lots and lots of good things. Everything's exciting. Go over the data. We take a look at the tires. They're still not even close. You know, like, you know, it takes a while to scrub these things in, and they need a while. Normally, if you're on a racetrack that has prep or glue or anything, normally these tires break in really fast. I mean, if there's glue down, you know, you can make a full hit the first pass because the glue is helping. And as you're making that hit, every foot that you travel, the tires are scrubbing the whole time. But just doing burnouts doesn't do everything you need for the tire unless you're doing 7 or 8 burnouts. So the tires are still pretty solid, pretty glazed. You know, they're not scrubbed in yet. We also noticed that the wheelie bar settings were a little weird, and that's when Twan lets me know that the surface was tough to deal with there. So we try to come up with a plan to fix that little problem, whether it's pulling further forward towards the starting line to give them a better surface, or whether it's to leave the wheelie bars set really close so that we don't have to question ourselves checking those over and over again. Jackie and Twan both said that there was something iffy about lining up the car. There's something about from the front it looks one way, from the back it looks a different way. Something about that, we weren't quite sure at this point. We did kind of figure it out later. It's kind of an optical illusion at that track, and if you're ever there, you'll see it. If you look in the right lane, all the marks go towards the center line. And I think it's because that short turn, I think that short turn is still kind of, it's not a direct 90. It's almost, a little more than a 90. So if you're looking at the car, it's easy to point the car to the left, I guess is what I'm trying to say. As I said, it drove, proceeded to drive left out of the groove, spun up, waffled the tire. I aborted the run. Basically, Yellow Belly 1, Big Chief 0. The track totally kicked my ass on that one. There's no excuses here. I shanked it, and I'm happy to say I shanked it because I'm happy that we have the horsepower. I'm happy that we're figuring this out together and everything's coming together. I'm happy. Everything is good. Everything's good. Yeah. So we're going over the data. The car's cooling down. Trying to come up with a strategy for the second hit. What we're going to do. Obviously at this point, the chances of going to the stripe the first lick, it's out of the question. Now only having 60 or 80 foot of data, going to the stripe on the next hit, it may be a bit ambitious. At this point, we need to pick a goal in between there and just try and reach those attainable goals, basically. If it goes further than that, fucking awesome. If it doesn't, well, we make a new goal. You know what I mean? Just something not to get discouraged. We noticed that we don't have drive shaft speed in the data still. Man, I've been working on this, and there's definitely a problem somewhere with noise or whatever, and I was having a problem with the ignition box. Maybe that had something to do with it, I don't know, but there's definitely something wrong with the data sensor side of the drive shaft sensor side of the data. So without having the drive shaft sensor, without having drive shaft speed to tell me where in the track it has too much wheel speed and where I can start to pull power out, because usually you look at the drive shaft speed and the G meter, and when they go opposite ways, it's spinning the tire, and so you don't want to pull power out right there because that's too late. Basically, you want to go before that. So if you start to see the G meter tank and the drive shaft speed go up, you want to come back before that, start taking power out there, and then that way it catches it before it gets into wheel speed, and it keeps the acceleration consistent. Without that drive shaft sensor, all I can do is go off of G meter and converter charge pressure. Basically, inside the torque converter, we're basically measuring the back pressure in the torque converter. It kind of will give you an idea of how much load is on the tire, and so I'm basically watching converter charge pressure. If it starts to go down as the G meter goes down, then most likely spinning the tire. But it's still guessing, basically. Without a drive shaft sensor, you're really just guessing. You don't have a good time versus distance measurement. You don't have any way to gauge time versus distance. So you're just trying to gauge time. And if it's faster on the next run, then that time will change. So if it looks like it spun the tires at 1.9, if I go into the computer and I start taking power out at 1.8 or 1.7, well, the next pass, if it's faster, it may spin the tires at 1.6, and then I'm behind. Without that extra piece of data, whenever you're struggling or a new combo or something like what we're having here, where we have more power than we thought we had, you're basically just guessing. And I have enough data that it's good guesses, but still yet it's guessing. So I decided to go ahead and lower the launch RPM 100 because it did spin and kick out. The tires aren't scrubbed in yet, so they're not going to take a lot of RPM. They're not going to take a lot of power on the starting line. So without glue, this is pretty much where we're at. But these are the situations I'm going to be in this year, doing what we're doing on the street and at these Gangster no preps. Like, this is the stuff I need to prepare for. I may cut a tire, have to have a brand new set on. I may need to go down to the stripe with a brand new set of tires. This is what I need to do. I lower the launch RPM 100, and sorry if I'm looking down. I have have notes here because I'm not just making a video for entertainment here. I'm also making it for the people that are interested in the technical side and the data side. So, and I'm making it for myself. I can watch this later and say, what did I do? We lowered the launch RPM 100 RPM. I added a small amount of launch retard to try and help catch that early wheel speed. And that's something that I can do a little easier without a drive shaft sensor because it's so early into the run. I have a pretty good idea of what I'm looking for there. I added a small amount of launch retard, about 8 degrees, for about 3/4 of a second, just to try and catch it. And when I do a launch retard, I don't do a big, smooth, nice, pretty launch retard, you know, that like you see some of those guys that make this beautiful curve, you know, and it's just like a swan or whatever. Like, no, I don't do that because anything you do smooth with timing, the engine doesn't see it. That's the point of being smooth, is so that the engine doesn't see it. The engine almost follows it rather than sees it. I like to put in a big, gnarly, nasty, ugly launch retard, like one that a 5-year-old would make. You know, I'll come out 3/400ths and I'll put a dot there, and then at 0 time or 0 retard, you know, so full max timing, whatever's in the map. So I'll put a dot there, and then at 4.8 or 0.5055, I'll just snatch it straight down to 6 degrees. I'll go over to 0.7 or 0.8, and I'll come down another 2, and then I'll just, you know, jack it right back in. I feel like when you do that, you don't have to take as much out. So for the technical people that are watching or that are, you know, trying to make a car go down, try it next time you get a chance. If you make this really pretty, you know, launch retard or timing curve, you know, you got to take way more out for it to snatch the power out of it. Whereas if you come out and you just jerk 5 degrees straight down, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna see it, it's gonna feel it. Try it, something to try. You never know. I also loosened the rear compression on the shocks 2 clicks to give it some more bite on the starting line. Let it compress a little further before it tries to climb up out of there. It can keep compressing as the tire is, you know, trying to hook, basically, instead of, you know, with the tighter compression, it stops here, and you want it to stop so that it can start climbing back out and doesn't, you know, keep compressing the shock or whatever. But when you're on something loose like this with a big tire car, you know, I'm loosening the shock 2 clicks so that it's still compressing as the tire is trying to get its shit together, as the timing retard is trying to work, as everything's trying to happen. It's still compressing the shock so that it doesn't bounce up into spin, or it doesn't just come right off. I did change the boost controller settings a little bit. I don't usually do that. I rarely ever do that. I'm usually at 27, 28 pounds of boost, 29 pounds of boost by the end of the run, no matter if I'm on the street or no prep track or whatever, or legit no prep track. Obviously, some of those no preps, you know, you're 50, 60, 70 pounds of boost, whatever. So I did change the boost controller settings a little bit. I clipped it a little further, so it should only make 25 or 26 pounds of boost now. Don't know if it'll matter. I didn't get that far into the run for it to even, you know, make a fuck, but I'm doing it anyway. Also want to make sure it's going to do what I tell it. So if we get in that situation later, I want to know that it's going to do it. I shortened the 1-2 shift up just a touch, because even though on the last pass it didn't look like the 1-2 shift is what upset it, it looked like it was just because it drove out of the groove. I went ahead and shortened it up 2/10 basically. I do all my shifting on time instead of RPM. I was looking at the G meter and the, you know, charge pressure and saying, okay, at this point is where it started to spin, but it looked like looks like the shift didn't have much to do with it. But I'm gonna go ahead and back the shift up 2/10 and just see. So if I was shifting it at 127 before, now I'm shifting it at, you know, 107, just to see if that helps, you know, calm it down through there. And usually what that'll do is if you're on an iffy track with some bumps or transitions, if you short shift it, you can usually pile some power in it after the shift. It softens it up basically. So instead of, you know, like instead of running the same timing out or whatever, you can usually short shift it, and then as soon as it shifts, you can start putting power back into it, and it'll take it because it's in that next ratio, and it's a little easier to apply the power in the next ratio. So, and then I have a charge pressure knob on the side of the transmission for the converter charge pressure that allows me to bleed some of that pressure off back to the pan, and that's a really special thing that Carl Rossler does with his transmissions that makes it just another tool in the toolbox for somebody like me. I'm not running traction control and all that stuff, so I got to do it any way I can. So having that little knob is super nice because you can make an adjustment, you know, in the staging lanes if you want. So I did take that knob back one to loosen up the converter a little bit, basically I'm bleeding off a little bit more pressure than I was before. So if the charge pressure was 110 on the starting line before, it's now going to be, 95. Nothing super big, but maybe enough to get me through that weird part of the track, just in case it wasn't 100% me driving out of the groove. It sounds like a bunch of changes, but they're all really small changes. Those are the changes that I made for the second pass. We're going to go up there. We're going to try and, double check our theories, or Jackie and Twan's theory on the lining the car up. We're going to double check that, make sure the car is where she wants it. We're going to make sure the wheelie bars are where Twan wants them, and if I need to pull up a little bit, I will, so that he can set those wheelie bars on the smoothest part of the racetrack. And then we'll see if we can go a little further on this run. Second pass, recap here. Right? For what we're working with here, it's not too bad. It went a whole lot further than it did the first pass. This one felt good. It really did. It's still a little too much wheel speed, but we're definitely getting closer, especially for an untouched racetrack with sticker tires. We showed up with brand new tires today. Being the second pass here, things are coming around. Could be the tires are starting to get broke in, or it could be that I'm starting to get a handle on the, power and everything else I got going on. But still, not having that drive shaft sensor, man, the racing that I've been doing, the testing I've been doing, I haven't really needed it, But now, you don't really need the drive shaft sensor until you have a problem. It's the same thing with any of that data. All the data, all those sensors, all those squiggly lines, when you're on a good run, when you're making good passes, you don't need any of that stuff, really, you know what I mean? Because it's doing it. But when you start to have trouble, or when you can't hit the tune-up, when you can't make it go down, that's when all those sensors and all the data really just show you where you're screwing up. We're definitely getting closer. We're at the point now where the next pass, we're gonna go to the stripe. We got this deal whipped. We're gonna go all the way to the stripe, and I don't know what the track record is here, but it might be contenders for that deal. It started to shake the tire, or it started to slow the tire down, pick the tire up, whatever, it spun up into shake and started to spin at, it looks like it started to spin at 1.9 into the run. I felt it. I did a quick pedal job, but started shaking. So after I pedaled it, it started to rehook, started to take off. Then it got the wheel speed back up, and it doesn't usually shake on the wheel speed part. When it starts to spin the tire, that's not usually when it shakes. It starts to shake whenever it tries to hook back up. So it spins for a few rotations, then it starts to hook back up, just like it does coming out of the burnout. You can, as it comes out of the burnout, you can hear it, like that's what it's doing out there. So as it spins up, when it starts to hook back up is when it starts to shake the tire, because it's trying to hook and it can't. The tire's rolling over itself. I did a quick pedal job, right? It started to spin at 1.9, quick pedal job, got back in it, but then it started to shake. Went to pull off the throttle one more time, and then just kind of rolled, quickly rolled back into it. So I wouldn't even call the second one a true pedal, because I didn't really come off of it. I just kind of pulled up and then back. But then it just shook, again. So spun up into shake, and nothing much I could do about it. I was off the gas at 3.2 into the run, and the chutes hit at 3.4. I coasted to a 4.95 at 111 mile per hour. Probably, if I would have been able to stay in it, coulda, woulda, shoulda, if whatever. If snakes had machine guns, frogs wouldn't fuck with them. Wait, no, it's the other way around. If frogs had machine guns, snakes wouldn't fuck with them. There you go. But if I'd have stayed in it, if it wouldn't have shook and all the stars would have aligned, it probably would have been I'm gonna guess it probably would have been a 50-ish, mid 450-ish, probably 155 or something. Pretty, lethargic, but probably good for the surface that I'm on tonight. The draggy, we've been working on the draggy, and man, we're starting to get that thing really dialed in. So I'm really proud of that. The draggy on that run showed 501 at 110.7. So it was really close. It was 6 numbers total, 600ths off. No, 6/10. No, a little over 500s. 600s, yeah. 600, that's right. I knew that. I don't know why you would interrupt me to tell me it's tenths when it's not. It's definitely not tenths, because 6/10 would be 495 to 560 or whatever, 550. So like, just let me do it. Just let me do my thing. This is what I do. Yeah. So anyway, 600s off the draggy. So the pass was a 495 at 111. Draggy said 501 at 110.7. This is something that I think we can use. It's not very accurate in the 60 foot, but it is accurate, looks like, for the rest of the run. So maybe something we can use on the street and actually tune off of rather than just double check stuff. So I think that this next pass, I think we'll go to the stripe. Honestly do. I think the next pass, tires will get broken a little more. I think that I'm going to be better at the tune-up on the next one. I did notice something weird on that one. It's rolling out with the wheels up in the air. When it brings the front end down, it's not a subtle bring it down. It's not a ride it out and down. I mean, it's rolling with the wheels up, and then all of a sudden it literally, boom, it drops fast. And when it drops, it moves, and then it starts spinning into shake. So while I don't think that the shift is what's causing it, because the shift is so much earlier than that, if I had a drive shaft sensor, I could tell you. But I think that because the shift is taking so much ratio away from the car, and I don't have enough power piled in it there, it's basically, with the ratio that I have, for the power and the boost curve that I have, I should be running more ratio, basically, is what I'm saying. So with the ratio that I have versus the power that I have and the stator that I have, it's running out there in first gear, and then it just runs out of breath when I shift it, and it falls instantly, boom, hits it, and then it starts to move around a little bit. It takes weight off the rear. Anytime the front end touches back to earth, it takes weight off the rear, it starts to move around, and then it spins up into shake. Being the fact that I'm shifting it at 1.1 into the run, there's a good chance that falling down and hitting and then moving around, there's a good chance that's taking 0.8. You know what I mean? So it could be the shift upsetting the run. It seems like it started to upset the run earlier than it did last time, which could be that I'm getting faster, or it could be because I moved the shift back. On the next pass, I'm gonna have to get that figured out. That's gonna be the key to going all the way to the stripe on the next pass, is getting that figured out. If it's the shift or if it's something else, if it's fuel coming in, if it's timing, coming out, if it's charge pressure, whatever it is, that's the key. I need to get that figured out. We'll put a tune-up in it, and then we're going to go to the stripe, and we're fitting to put a hurting on the world record, dog. So before the third pass here, this is going to be the one. It's already too late. I can already tell after this run, there's not going to be any time to do another run. So this is the one. We got to go to the stripe on this one. Has to happen. Usually when I shank it, and then the fourth pass is the one we really nail it. Everything's usually going, and then the third pass I go back a step, and then 4 I'm in there. In there like swimwear, buddy. I've established we're just guessing at this point without a drive shaft sensor, so whatever we do is just, we're just learning everything and trying to guess it, where we need to pull the power, where we need to shift ratio, stuff like that. So I did try and put a little more back in it early, hoping that the tires are breaking in and it's going to go a little faster and it's going to take a little bit more power. So I put a little timing back in it, or it didn't take as much timing out, basically, hoping that, maybe the tires are breaking in, track might be getting a little better, who knows. I'm hoping that, because really I feel like with the data that I have, the only way that I'm going to the stripe is if I have more early, so I don't have to accelerate as much through the middle where it's bumpy and where where there's no track surface there. Man, I looked at that shift, and I looked at that shift, and I looked at that shift, and I'm telling you, I don't know. I think that I need to move the shift way back out to where it usually is, at like 1.4. I mean, way out there, so that it stays up through the bumps, through the transition, and just keeps rolling. I think that's what I need to do. But the chances of going down, 90% of the time, you're going to have a better chance of going down with the 1-2 shift brought closer to the starting line to get you in the next ratio to where it can go through those transitions easier. So, you know, there are those times when hanging the shift out further really helps. But without a drive shaft sensor, it's hard for me to know, you know, and I'm just guessing. And we've worked hard. We're all tired. You know, we've been up for almost 2 days now out here and drove all the way to Texas for this. So I really want to go to the stripe, give us that pumped up moment. So I moved the 1-2 back a little bit more. That last pass, you know, it spun earlier into the run or whatever. So everything's saying to move it out, but I'm moving it back. Damn it. That's really about all we changed. Car seems great, you know, golf cart's still running. I mean, so far so good. Go up there for the third pass, they got me figured out. Everything is, you know, everything is working like it should. We did go up to 6.3 on the tires where we had been at 6.1, or we were at 6.0 and we went to 6.2, I can't remember, but we did make a last minute decision to go up on the tires 0.2 of a pound, just because usually that adds a little bite. Adding air to the tire pushes the center of the tire out, doesn't allow it to cup in, doesn't allow it to get that wheel speed. So I'm hoping that we can add a little bite. Right now we're basically saying that the surface of the tire isn't broke in yet, so we need all of the surface of the tire. Whereas usually we allow the tire to cup in the center, and then it's only riding on the outer 2 edges of the tire because the center of the tire is cupped in, and it gets you that wheel speed you need earlier. But right now we actually need less of that wheel speed. So we put a little air in the tire, try and try to push the center of the tire out, you know, push it out. I spool it, I go in, we're rock and roll. I let go of the brake. It feels good, feels pretty good. We made a big jump in 60 foot, I can tell. I don't know what the actual slip said because I wasn't worried about that all night, but third run, the draggy dropped 600ths in the 60 foot. Yeah, 600, so it was quite a bit better. It felt good in the 60 foot, everything was fine. It got out there. I thought, let's go. We're fitting to put a hurting on the world record. Woo, woo. Nope. That's not what happened at all. Front end came down earlier, faster, harder, boom, moved around, shook, spun. I pedaled it. I tried to roll back in it. It shook, spun again, whatever, spun, shook again, spin hooked, whatever you want to call it. Clearly, the pushing out of the tire, the center, the pushing out wasn't working. So this time I thought, fuck it. We're still going to shoot for a better ET than our last one. Because at this point, that's the only thing we got going for us is we've gone faster every run. So I roll back in at the, you know, one last time and just I don't even know if I got back to full throttle, but and then it starts going and it was pulling. I was like, oh, here we go. And then I start to remember that the shutdown everybody's so worried about. So I was about to go full throttle, man. If I'd have had one of them fucking panic buttons that everybody's got, I'd have probably mashed it, or 2 of them, you know. But it started to spin and shake again right as I was going through the stripe. So I pedaled it. Chutes were out early and coasted to the draggy said 489 at 143. So far, the draggy's been slower than the time slip, so I'm guessing the time slip probably said 486 or 485 or something, maybe 484, I don't remember. You know, like 142 mile an hour, 143 mile an hour. And I will say, at a 480, the shutdown wasn't even like sporty. Wasn't even remotely, you know, hairy or anything. Granted, my car stops really well. I'm extremely confident in my brakes. I take pride in my brakes. I take pride in knowing that I can stop the car, and I take pride in knowing that I try to put myself in the center of the track for you know, smooth braking, and you know, I take pride in all that stuff. So granted, you know, my car is probably not your average race car that's going to be out there, but for me, you know, in the 140, 150 range, it was nothing. No problem at all. Anybody that's thinking about that or wondering about that, about Yellow Belly, I can promise you, if your brakes are, if you take pride in your machine and your brakes, because your brakes are just like any other performance part, they work better with the right supporting modifications. You know what I mean? Supporting modifications. Yeah, they work better with that. So, and if you take pride in your work and you make sure you have good brakes, and you know, shouldn't have a problem out there. So, and if you do, get some chutes, learn how to use them. So, all in all, Yellow Belly 3, Big Chief 0. I will be back. This is not the last time I will be there. I will be back. I definitely appreciate the opportunity I was given. I think that if I had a couple more licks at this deal, I think I would have whipped it. But, you know, that's the way it goes. Next time I come out here, I'm sure it'll be a totally different animal. Everything will be different. The track will be different. Car will be different. We're going to take that, and we'll give Yellow Belly the victory on that one. Yellow Belly earned it, for sure. That place is no slouch. You got to have your shit together if you're going to go 430s or 440s at Yellow Belly, I promise you. Or at least you need a, you know, couple days rather than one test session and 3 licks. This was an amazing experience. It really was. The car's running great. Everything seems good. You know, like, I couldn't be happier right now because we have worked our butts off. And I mean, I have worked non-stop. I haven't been able to do, you know, any of the technical video stuff that I've been wanting to do. I haven't been able to, you know, to answer all the questions that I want to answer. I haven't been able to be in the comments as much. I mean, I have been grinding on this thing, trying to get it ready for this race. I mean, I was ready to go. We were loading up, you know, we were going to War in the Woods, but thankfully it got rescheduled due to rain. So, you know, we're going to use that. We're going to take this time, and we're going to make the car better and test more. And we're going to go out on the street and test some this week on actual streets, you know, and try and mimic that situation. And, you know, because obviously I can go fast when I need to. It's right now I need to figure out how to slow down efficiently. So that's what we're going to do. Big thanks to Yellow Belly. Big thanks to, you know, Dan and Limpy and those guys. Big thanks to OG Ronnie Barnes. If you don't know who he is the gut whisperer, if you know what I'm saying. He is the Yellow Belly OG. He and the folks that run that place now are, you know, they're excellent. I met all of them. We talked, we hung out all night. They're great people. They have so much passion for what they're doing, so much passion for that racetrack, for the history behind it. They're not looking to make big changes or take away from what it is. They will. They definitely will. If you ask them to make the changes, if you want the changes, they'll make them. They're not scared to dive in with both feet here, but at the same time, they understand the passion. This track's been in their family for, you know, 50 years, 60, I don't even know, forever. I recommend, if you get the chance, if you get an opportunity to go to Yellow Belly, you know, man, what an amazing piece of history. This is probably one of the coolest things that drag racing has ever given to the world. Because even if you're not a drag racing fan, you can go to Yellow Belly and you can appreciate the awesome. Like, the character that place have, the look, the optic, the way that the feeling standing in the burnout box is just, you know, I can't even imagine it with people there. I can't wait. That's going to be awesome. We're going to do some testing, and we're going to try and get this War in the Woods thing in the bag. Whether we win or not, we're going to try and go and show out. And then we can get started on some other stuff around here and get ready for these big street races we got coming up, you know, because there's some big tire street stuff happening soon. And we also got Caddy Jack and the Vet. We got plenty of stuff for those things that are going. So we are moving. We're movers and shakers over here. I know it's been kind of, you know, weird not being able to be in the comments all the time and answering all your questions, but I'm trying to do this. You know, I'm trying to show you guys what I can do out here, and I'm trying to give you guys the technical stuff with the car and to where I can show it to you and record it all and make good notes so we can talk about it and everything else. So hopefully we can all learn how to be better at this together. So stick with us and get ready for some street testing coming your way with the Crow here in the next couple of days. How cool is that? Well, bye. Bye.